But you need to keep your mouth shut, or you're in trouble for a long time. I don't know what happened, and don't tell me.
On the night of June 25th, 2014, my daughter Bree was murdered by her boyfriend Josh in the home where he lived with his parents, Philip and Shannon Almeida. We have now learned through legal proceedings, including the Almeida's own words, of the events preceding Bree's death. Josh's parents did not warn Bree how dangerous Josh was, and the information they withheld ultimately may have cost Bree her life. There are still many questions as to what happened that night Bree was murdered in the Almeida home. Investigators and prosecutors have stated the evidence and the lividity in Bree's body support that Bree was killed approximately 2 hours before Josh's mother, Shannon, called 911. Bree was smart. She trusted and believed Josh and his parents, Philip and Shannon.
I was aware that there were many people who really missed Bree, and I did gain an appreciation of how many people's lives she touched, and what a loss not only to her family, but our community her death was. In learning more about Bree, she struck me as being a very kind, very giving person, a very tolerant person, perhaps sometimes to a fault. And I mean, we can even look at the courtroom and see the type of support that's here on her behalf today to corroborate that. I thought he was really lucky to find her and to be able to become intimate. So that was one impression, is I had a very high opinion of her.
And when she says grumpy, Judge, one of the things that Bree often, she never used terms that were harsh or derogatory or even judgmental. Her terms always had a softness to them. No matter what, you can look through some of those texts. When he starts referring to her in very derogatory terms, she will say, "Why are you so grumpy?" That's her term, grumpy. It doesn't matter how mean he is to her, her term is grumpy.
The reason I asked about the guns, you asked about the firearm, and so did I, because right now there's bullet holes down the hallway, there's bullet holes through the window, there's 2 bullet holes on the side of her car. You know anything about any of that?
No, I don't.
Did you see a gun in the house?
I asked. I don't remember seeing one.
What did she say when you asked if there was any firearm?
She said there were some. I was like, are they locked? Are they secured?
Any weapons or anything?
Not that I remember.
If he fired a gun last night and you guys went over and you picked up the brass and you removed the evidence of him committing that crime, you will also be charged with a crime. So I need to know the truth, whether you guys picked up any brass out of the house.
I don't remember.
You were there
I
at
was
8
there
o'clock?
by myself, yeah,
Okay.
yeah, but I don't remember if anyone else came by. I don't know.
Okay. So you remember the gun ever being fired?
I don't remember anything. I remember from 9 o'clock drinking to 8 o'clock in the morning. My dad answered the door.
Counsel, I have conducted an inquiry of Ms. Almeida. I found that she has a valid right to assert the Fifth Amendment. I think there is in the chain, link in the chain to a C felony. I could have a letter ready to go. What's his name?
First name, Philip.
First name?
Philip.
Phil.
Phillo.
And I assume it to be the same link that he would have a concern about that you described to me.
Yes. You and your husband, Philip, went to Kimber Doobie's house.
Correct.
Okay. There was blood on the floor?
Yes, there was blood on the floor around my son.
Was there blood anywhere else?
On the countertop, there was like a little hand print.
At some point, did somebody clean up the blood?
Well, I cleaned up the blood on the floor.
Okay, then as I stepped back and was looking for stuff to clean it up, that's when I saw some blood on the countertop. At that time, you know, as I was cleaning up the stuff on the floor, you know, looking around everything, there was a gun on the floor. Immediately I picked it up, looked at it, found out how to release it since it was a revolver, and then I just opened up a cabinet and put it away, secured it.
One of your very first questions to Miss Doobie, who came over to your house in the middle of the night, was, is there a firearm? You went over to the house and you found a firearm, correct?
After, yes, I guess.
And you didn't just leave it aside, right?
Pardon?
You did not just leave it there. You picked it up.
Yes.
And you didn't just put it on the shelf. You emptied it first.
Yes.
But with that first officer, When he gave you that full and fair opportunity to say what had happened, the one detail you left out was the gun, right?
I guess, yes.
Where did you put the handgun at now? Where is it?
I don't want to say.
Okay. Okay, well, when the officers get there, they're going to need to know where it is.
I know. Okay, it's in the dishwasher. Taylor, Joshua, I don't want you to touch her. Leave her be.
Yeah, he needs to. I know.
I need you to leave her be. Joshua, I need you to leave her be, please. Come on, this is not right. She's gone. She's not there. I don't know what happened, but it's awful, Joshua. But we need to let her be. You can't do anything to fix that. I need you to come and sit with me. We can't fix this.
Do you swear or affirm the testimony about to give today in the form of this deposition is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony about to give today in the form of this deposition is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you.
Would you raise your right hands, please? Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in the form of this deposition is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
What did you tell Philip about what had happened?
I don't believe I told him what happened. I just told him he needed to come home. That Brianna wasn't here present anymore and to pray for us.
So at about 1-something, you hear from Shannon, and she tells you, what she indicated yesterday, she told you Bree's, you need to come home, Bree's not with us, something along those lines. And this is all through text communication?
Correct.
What did you say to her? I assume you said, what the heck? What happened?
What happened? Is everybody all right?
What did she say?
And then she said Bree's gone.
Okay.
And I think that was the extent of our text.
Okay. Was she able, I know she talked about calling a coworker or something, calling someone or trying to get permission to call from the jail. Was she able to talk to you over the phone when she was at the jail?
Well, we didn't have that discussion. There wasn't much more I could do beyond that. If she's in there being questioned, I'm assuming they're not going to allow her to talk. So I think that was probably the most that she could get out.
Pointed it at her, pulled the trigger. And remember the gun going off, and dropped the gun, ran to her side, grabbed her by her shoulder, went to shake her, but I knew she was gone. I just looked in her eyes and knew she was gone. She had blood everywhere. And so I screamed for my mom. She came downstairs and called the ambulance. I remember looking for the gun, looking frantically. I was crying, screaming, and then that's all I remember.
At 10:22, you sent a text to Josh, and it says something like, "What are you doing?"
I don't know what's going on down there.
Something like
I heard the dog and him playing, and I heard the bone dragging around on the ground, and I thought he was going to study. At least that's what he said. So I was like, "Hey, what are you doing?"
And did you get any response?
When I went upstairs, he poked his head up.
I started the table and get home at about 10:40.
Andrew Lambert, 2 hours and 43 minutes in, says Josh didn't wait to tell his mother, meaning after the death. And now the pool table room, it's got this picture of something called carpet cleaner. Any idea what that's doing down there?
Yeah, I don't know since there's no carpet down there.
I know, I didn't know for that same reason. You don't have any blue gloves at your house for cleaning or what have you?
I think my mom does. I don't ever use them.
Okay. Do you know what you were wearing when you were at the Tesoro purchasing alcohol?
Yeah, pants and a shirt.
Okay. What kind of shoes were you wearing, if you know?
No clue.
Do you know if the police ever found the pants you were wearing?
Yeah, I don't know where his pants went.
Was there anything done that you're aware of to clean up the house in any manner between the time the gunshot went off and the time that you 911 was called?
No.
My point is that she was probably shot sometime sooner than well sooner before.
Did you hear Paul Mayovis talking about the fact that that Bree's body at some point after being shot had been moved?
I think I remember hearing that.
Okay. And the reason that they knew that was because of the imprint caused by the remote control.
I remember hearing that. Okay.
Was Josh given a diagnosis in 2011 and 12 for anything besides alcohol addiction?
The alcohol, the cocaine, substance abuse, and I believe the doctor said that he might be borderline personality disorder.
There was, and would that have been in 2011 or 2012?
No, I think that was the later end of 2012, yes.
Okay, so the second intake.
Mm-hmm.
Did you ever talk to Bree about the fact that the doctors thought he might be, what did you say it was, borderline personality disorder?
No, I don't believe we discussed that.
During the time, I guess it was Easter, that you met both Butch and Cindy, did you tell them about Joshua's challenges?
No.
When you met Cindy that second time, did you talk to her about Joshua's challenges?
No.
If you believed it was important for the family to know what Joshua was dealing with, why didn't you call them up and tell them?
I was under the impression that Brianna talked with her parents about them because she told me she did.
Other than talking to Bree about the alcohol use and the addiction issues, did you talk to Bree about any other concerns involving Joshua? For example, did you talk to her about the fact that he's not allowed to have a weapon?
No.
The fact that he'd been twice seen for a psychiatric care?
But she knew that.
How did she know that?
Because I'm sure her and Josh talked about that.
Did you ever tell Bree whether he was or was not dangerous?
No.
Okay. You didn't believe he was dangerous?
No.
At the sentencing hearing, you stated to the court that you had no idea Joshua had a weapon and you had no idea he was drinking.
Correct.
Also, at sentencing, you said basically after the testimony of Dr. Zelig, you said, "We are now aware of Josh's diagnosis." And in particular, quote, "There previously wasn't any direction for us and he needs additional help," end quote. Do you remember saying that in open court?
Yes.
Okay. But actually, you were aware of his diagnosis back in 2011 and 2012, correct?
Correct.
Do you believe that Joshua assaulted Kimber?
No.
Do you believe Joshua has ever assaulted any of his girlfriends?
No.
Did you ever tell Bree that the Kimber Doobie incident was, that Josh hadn't assaulted her?
I don't believe we discussed that. No.
Did you ever tell Bree about the fact that that Josh had texted a picture of a gun to Lauren Rome and threatened her horse?
No.
Did you talk to Bree about any of the gun issues relating to the fact that Josh was not allowed to have weapons?
No. I didn't believe the gun was an issue.
Well, at the time of the murder, how many guns were you aware that Joshua had owned over his lifetime? You had the one and you took that away.
That was the only one I didn't even know if the one he used was his at the Millennium.
Okay.
So that was the only one I was aware of.
Okay, so you took one away from him, and that's the one that's the first page of Exhibit 2, that gun. And then you were aware that he had a gun that was taken by the police because of the Millennium issue, but it sounds like you're not sure if that was even his.
I had no knowledge.
Were you aware of Joshua owning any other guns?
No.
Have you ever seen any texts or statements by Joshua indicating that he did own other guns?
No.
Have you heard the interview that Josh gave to Detective Foraker where he says he's owned the gun that was involved in this murder for 5 years?
No, I haven't heard that, no.
Do you need police help or ambulance?
My son is going crazy right
Okay,
now, ma'am.
does he have any weapons?
Yes, he does. He's got a stick to a broken pole cue.
Okay, can you get away from him?
Yes, right now.
Okay, get away from
But
him.
he could get into the house right now.
Just
I
a
need
second.
help now.
I know, I'm getting you help, okay? Just stay on the phone with me and keep telling me what's going on, all right? How old is he?
20 years old.
Okay, so at any time prior to that murder, did you ever learn from anyone that Joshua was in possession of a gun?
Specifically from anybody, no.
Okay.
You know, I mean, I don't even think Shannon even mentioned it.
In terms of whether Josh had ever been in possession of any firearm, I'm understanding that you had absolutely no idea that Joshua had any firearm up until the time that he killed Bree.
Correct.
And again, since you had, sounds like up until the time of Bree's murder, you didn't have any indication that Joshua had ever owned a gun, so that wasn't on your radar, so to speak.
Correct.
Okay. Had Shannon ever talked to you at all about concerns that Joshua may have a gun? Or?
Not that I can remember.
First of all, Joshua indicates that his parents, maybe it was both of you, maybe it was just Shannon, but he says that when asked whether or not Philip and Shannon knew Joshua was in possession of a firearm and had threatened his former girlfriends with it, Joshua seems to say that they did know he had a firearm. So, had you ever heard Joshua indicate that you and or Shannon were aware that he was in possession of a firearm?
No.
Okay. And it sounds, I'm assuming you still maintain that you knew nothing about Joshua possessing any firearm until the day of Bree's murder.
Correct.
All right, so the first page is in fact the gun that Lauren sent to you. Did you have any, what did you tell Lauren when she sent you this picture?
Go check on him.
Okay, and did you?
Absolutely.
What did you do?
I took the gun away from him.
Okay, you went down there and you said what?
I don't know what I said, but I told him, Lauren told me that you're threatening to hurt yourself. And you have a gun. I want it, and I want it now.
Okay. So what did he say?
And he gave me the gun.
Okay. What did you do with the gun?
I gave it to my husband.
What did your husband do with the gun?
I believe he gave it to the police.
Okay. Were you aware that Shannon had found one of Joshua's guns and handed it over to the police?
Yes.
Okay. When did you become aware of that?
I can't remember exactly when. I called the police, said, here's a package on my doorstep. Come and pick it up.
Okay. Earlier I asked you whether or not you were aware that Joshua had any guns, and it was, I'm 100% sure that your testimony was that the first time you were aware Josh had ever owned a gun was at the time that he murdered Bree. Do you recall that testimony?
I think so.
Okay. So now it sounds like you're telling me you do remember an incident where you called the police and turned in a gun.
So after reading this reminded me of
the fact your son had a gun?
Transpired in the past, yes.
All right. Earlier, we've established, you told me, under oath, Joshua never had a gun, to my knowledge, until I learned that he killed Bree that was the first time I knew that he had any access to a gun. Recall that?
Okay.
Is that true? Do you remember testifying to that?
I think so.
Okay. Okay, great. So then I showed you this statement where Joshua is saying, I handed over, my mom found a Glock and she turned it over to the police. After reading this statement, you are now testifying under oath that, oh yeah, I just previously forgot that Joshua had a gun before he killed Bree. Am I understanding that correctly?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
Yes.
Just slipped your mind the existence
Yes.
of it earlier. Did your mom ever come and talk to you about the fact that you texted that gun picture to Lauren Road?
I think so.
Okay. What do you remember your mother doing? Like, how do you remember that conversation coming up?
I don't remember. I mean, I think she came down and said, she asked me if I had a gun or...
Okay, she asked you if you had a gun. What did you say?
No, of course not.
And then she what? Showed you the picture?
Yeah.
And then you said what?
I say it's an old picture.
And she said?
I don't know. It's a long time ago.
Did she take your gun at that point?
No, she didn't know I had a gun.
Okay, because she believed that was an old picture.
Because I told her to her.
Just to be clear, the picture of the Glock 17 that you texted to Lauren Rome, that's the gun that's responsible for Bree's death. Yes?
I think so, yes.
So the gun that Shannon gave you, you put on the porch and called the police, and they just come and pick it up? That's how that went
Pretty
down?
much.
Okay. When you say pretty much, any change? I mean, you called.
I can't remember if I put it on the porch or put it on the porch, and then when the officer came, I went out. I couldn't tell you.
Okay. You may or may not have had interaction with the officer.
Correct.
Okay. But the officer did come to your house and pick up that gun.
It was gone.
And what was the explanation that you gave to APD?
No explanation.
What
I don't
happened?
want it, don't need it, it's not mine.
Okay. You call APD, correct?
I'm trying to remember exactly, because there's no set thing on. I think I consulted with somebody and they said just put it in a brown bag on your doorstep and call them and say, come pick this up.
Okay. So you believe what you did was put the gun in a brown bag on your porch, yes?
Correct.
Okay. Outside of your door?
Yes.
And then,
And I think because the person I think said don't let him into your house, just put it right on there.
okay. And so then you call APD and you say,
I located a weapon, found a weapon, I think it was, and could somebody come pick it up?
and it's not mine.
Yeah.
Okay. And then, sounds like you don't recall seeing the police there, but then it was.
I don't.
Okay. What's your best estimate as to when that happened?
I couldn't tell you exactly. Probably about 4 or 5 months prior to Bree, I think. I can't remember.
Okay.
Not sure.
4 to 5 months would have been like, what did we say, January, February 2014?
No. I get that mixed up. Not this one. I can't remember when this one was. We moved in the house in September timeframe.
I'm sorry, I missed that.
I'm confusing the guns
That's
up.
okay, that's okay. So, when you say you're confusing your guns up,
Well, okay.
how many guns do you estimate that you have? I mean, I gotta tell you, your parents were not knowledgeable of any guns, and you're living in their house. I'm gonna get your best guesstimate as to the number of guns you have had during the time you lived in that house, because frankly, it's a little baffling. Are we talking over 10 guns?
Form, foundation.
Best estimate, how many guns have you owned?
Probably 10.
And just for the record, I want to make sure to recall this correctly. The guns that were taken from you by your parents would have included when you were 13 or 14, your mom took a gun that your dad knew about.
Mm-hmm.
And then at another point, your mom took a gun.
Yes, a couple of years later they took it down from me.
And your dad knew about that.
Yes.
God, Joshua, why do you have a gun again?
It's the same gun that I had.
I didn't even know you had a gun.
Okay. Who do you think should be allowed to own a gun? What kind of
Everybody.
restrictions? Okay. If your son gets out of jail in 10 years, do you believe he should be allowed to own a gun?
Well, the law, the way it's written, says no.
Third full paragraph beginning with the word per Almeida. Okay. This is your mom talking to the police after you've been arrested. Per Almeida, Joshua did not have any other medical or psychological issues for which he was being treated. Almeida stated she took Joshua to a psychiatrist a couple times a year ago, but he did not like to go, so she stopped. Did you believe at the time you were seen by these psychiatrists and counselors that you needed mental health counseling?
No.
But you didn't think you needed help?
No. If
Do you
I
think-
thought I needed help, I would have stuck with it and gone with it.
Do you think you needed help with alcohol at the time of Bree's death?
Did I? No.
Did you think you needed to be in inpatient treatment in June of 2014
No.
for alcohol and drug addiction? Was Josh given a diagnosis in 2011 or 12 for anything besides alcohol addiction?
The alcohol, the cocaine, substance abuse, and I believe the doctor said that he might be borderline personality disorder. We didn't enable him, Your Honor. And Joshua is not a lost cause. He is still our son, and we want him to overcome his mental health and substance issues. We are committed to helping Joshua now that we understand and know which treatment direction to take.
At the sentencing hearing, you stated to the court that you had no idea Joshua had a weapon and you had no idea he was drinking.
Correct.
Also, at sentencing, you said, basically after the testimony of Dr. Zelig, you said, we are now aware of Josh's diagnosis, and in particular, quote, there previously wasn't any direction for us and he needs additional help, end quote. Do you remember saying that in open court?
Yes.
Okay. But actually, you were aware of his diagnosis back in 2011 and 2012, correct?
Correct.
Part of your safety training with ConocoPhillips, are you required to report any safety incident?
Yes.
And when you report a safety incident on the North Slope, it's also your job to follow up and ensure that corrective action has been taken, basically.
Correct.
The safety issue has been resolved.
Yes.
Did you ever believe that it was prudent or necessary to talk to either Butch or Cindy Moore about any of the, what I'm going to call concerns that were going on in Joshua's life?
For the discussion Shannon had with Brianna, taking her for her word, saying that she passed that information on to her mom and dad, I talked to an adult, or Shannon talked to an adult, and that's where the information went.
Okay. Quote, when you want to help people, you tell them the truth. When you want to help yourself, you tell them what they want to hear. Did you post that?
Probably.
Have you ever considered that there was something you could have done to avoid this murder?
What could I have done to avoid this murder?
Do you believe there's anything you could have done?
No. I can't control somebody. I can't control two adults.
And you've never talked to any of his medical evaluators?
No.
Have you
Not privy
seen-
to that. He's an adult.
Have you seen any of his counseling records?
No.
Obviously, Joshua wasn't that bad, you know? We did have boundaries in our home. We had no idea that Joshua was to continue drinking. He was following through with his Aquila program. He was working hard. I had no idea that he had a weapon. I had no idea he was drinking. I had no reason to suspect him.
2 years before Bree is shot and killed. He was diagnosed then. How many people are sitting in Mr. Almeida's situation that were actually diagnosed of their mental illness 2 years before that, had all of the resources to address it, and didn't? Very rare. It's very rare. They knew what he needed. It wasn't that they told him, you go away and come back when you got your substance abuse straightened out. He didn't want to go to inpatient. There's that note in there, Judge. I don't know if you recall this or not, but his dad said, we have insurance. We can send him to in treatment.
Your dad works for ConocoPhillips. Your mom works for A&MC. I'm assuming then that you are double covered for purposes of health insurance, or you were at the time of this incident?
Were, yes.
By the time he reached 19, as I lay out in my sentencing memorandum, and I know you're well aware of, there was not a single day of his life from that point, from the first time he got in trouble when he was 19 until he committed this murder. In fact, there was often overlap. He was often in violation. He was often in situations, and that's just the stuff we know through the case investigation here. We know he committed many more offenses, many more felony drug offenses while he was on those releases. There's a myriad of things that he did that he never got caught for, all felonies.
In Alaska, under Alaska law, perjury under Section A, a person commits the crime of perjury if the person makes a false sworn statement which the person does not believe to be true. Perjury is a Class B felony. Also, under Alaska law, tampering with physical evidence is a C felony.